Welcome to Top 10 channel. And then it's over in an instant. The 22nd World Cup has concluded. Before the first ball was kicked, this tournament was unlike any other, and it has since ended, leaving behind a legacy on the field that can compete with any World Cup. Qatar World Cup, a competition that featured many historical firsts, shocking results, and iconic moments. Stay tuned. Full disclosure, as someone who lives in Canada and closely follows this team, this is a biased opinion. But that doesn't make it all the less deserving of a spot. Canada went into World Cup as an unknown, a country where football often takes a significant backseat to ice hockey, whose qualification for Qatar 2022 took many by surprise. They got the world's attention against Belgium, doing everything but scoring in an undeserved 1-0 loss to the number 2 ranked team in the world. It meant that after 4 games and 36 games, Canada still hadn't scored at the Men's World Cup. Against Croatia, the odds were just as staked against them, but just as they did against Belgium, Les Rouges went on the offensive. A ball into the box by Tajon Buchanan was met by Alphonso Davies, who put Canada ahead a minute into the game, the fastest goal in the 2022 World Cup. It was a moment of jubilation 36 years in the making, a moment of release for a country desperate to show it belongs on the world stage. It wasn't to be on the day. Eventual semi-finalists Croatia went on to win 4-1. But Canada finally had their World Cup goal in a moment that will live long in Canada ahead of their home World Cup in 2026. In an effort to combat time wasting, FIFA gave referees the mandate to add significant amounts of additional to the end of games. Instead of games ending with 3 or 4 additional minutes, suddenly they were ending typically with anywhere between 10 to 13 minutes added on. It was inevitable that we were going to get a dramatic and incredibly late equalizer in this tournament, and no moment encapsulated that more than the final seconds of the quarterfinal between Netherlands and Argentina. After it looked like Argentina they were in a commanding 2-0 lead, the Dutch pulled one back through Wout Weghorst on the 83rd minute, and if there was a more traditional amount of time added on, it wouldn't have been enough. But with 10 minutes added on, the Dutch had 17 minutes after their initial goal to lush for an equalizer. In the last minute of added-on time, they got a free kick in a dangerous position. Toon Koopmeiners passed the ball directly to Weghorst, who did enough to force the ball home, sparking scenes of jubilation from the Netherlands. It was the latest goal in World Cup history, and although they eventually lost to Argentina on penalties, it was a moment that would define the large amounts of added-on time in the tournament. It's easy to forget how good Cristiano Ronaldo has been. His last couple of seasons have seen a stark decline from his incredible peak. But he is arguably the greatest to play this sport. At his best, Ronaldo was quite literally an unstoppable force of power. Portugal hasn't won a World Cup during his era, but he has been part of 5 World Cup squads for Portugal. In context, Portugal has only been to 3 World Cups before he made his Portugal debut. Ronaldo scored in 2006, 2010, 2014, and 2018, meaning that in Portugal's opening game against Ghana, Ronaldo had the opportunity to make history. His moment came when Portugal won a penalty on the 65th minute when he fired the ball past Laurence Ziggy to give Portugal the lead. Ronaldo had never had a defining World Cup in the way Messi or Modric has, but he is the only man to score in 5 World Cups, a record and moment that no one can take away from him. Going into this World Cup, the Australians were expected to do nothing other than just make up the numbers in a group that included France, Denmark, and Tunisia. The Socceroos had barely scraped into the tournament, and unlike in previous tournaments, they were lacking any players at the so-called elite level. Australia surprisingly took the lead in their first game against France, but it looked like a flash in the pan as the 2018 World Cup winners ran out 4-1 winners. But the Aussies didn't look back. In a do-or-die against Tunisia, Mitchell Duke, who plays in Japan's second tier, gave Australia a shock lead which they held onto, giving the Aussies their first World Cup win since 2010. Australia went into their game against Denmark knowing that more than likely, a draw would see them in the last 16, but a shock Tunisia win over France meant they would have to win. Fortunately, their moment came on the hour mark. A great run and solo goal from Matthew Leckie was enough to separate the two teams on the day, and for the first time since 2006, Austria had reached the last 16, sparking scenes of joy across the land down under. Iran has been going through a turbulent revolution recently in the name of women's rights and emancipation. Hundreds of Iranians have been killed by the Iranian government trying to squash the protests, and the government would have been hoping the Iranian football team could have provided a welcome distraction and sports washing amongst all the turbulence. Iran's Ali Karimi, Milad Mohammadi and Majid Hosseini line up during the national anthems before the match in Qatar Monday. The country's World Cup team declined to sing their national anthem before their opening match Monday in a sign of support for mass protests back home. Marco Juritsa, Reuters. But incredibly, the entire Iranian team stood in complete silence, refusing to sing their national anthem before their game against England. In a World Cup dominated by the sidelining of human rights and social issues, it was a powerful display of courage and defiance in the face of oppression in their homeland. Iran lost their game to England 6-2, but their message to the Iranian government was arguably much more impactful than any football result possibly could have been. Who saw this coming when the draw was made? Japan was considered by most the best Asian team heading into 2022, but even more thought they were very unfortunate to be drawn against Germany, Spain, and Costa Rica. In their opening game, Japan did well to limit Germany to just one goal, and with their fast-paced attack, it was the perfect scenario in which Japan could strike quickly through Doan and Asano to give Japan a shock 2-1 lead. It looked to be all for naught though, as they lost 1-0 to Costa Rica. At halftime against Spain, it looked as if that Costa Rica game had cost them. They were 1-0 down after a Alvaro Morata goal, but then just like against Germany, Japan turned on the style. Ritsu Doan quickly equalized for Japan after halftime, and then immediately afterwards Aotanaka gave Japan the lead. It was a masterclass in defending after that goal as Japan held on to not only reach the last 16 but top the group in the process. No one gave Saudi Arabia a chance heading into this game. Argentina went into this tournament unbeaten in their last 36 games and is considered one of the front-runners to win the tournament. As a team, Argentina was arguably the best they have ever been in the Lionel Messi era and would back that up by winning the tournament a few weeks later. Argentina took the lead through a Messi penalty and had a 1-0 lead over Saudi Arabia going into halftime. It was all going to plan. But the Middle East outfit wouldn't lie down, and Argentina found themselves on the end of two quick goals at the start of the second half. Suddenly it was 2-1 Saudi Arabia. Argentina struggled to deal with Saudi Arabia's high line, which combined with their wayward finishing resulted in a shock 2-1 defeat and one of the biggest World Cup upsets of all time and sparking scenes of utter bedlam in Saudi Arabia, and just 3 days in the 2022 World Cup, gave the tournament an unfortunate result. 92 years after the first ever World Cup, an African team was still to win a World Cup quarterfinal. If that was going to change this year, many assumed it would be through Senegal, but instead it was the Atlas Lions of Morocco that smashed the glass ceiling. Morocco made shockingly easy work of their group, taking 7 points out of 9 against Croatia, 0-0, Belgium, 2-0, and Canada 2-1, before going on to face close neighbors Spain. Morocco didn't give the Spanish an inch before going on to win the game on penalties, setting up a last-8 showdown with Portugal. Just before halftime, Youssef En-Nesyri gave Morocco the lead, sparking deafening celebrations amongst the Moroccan supporters in the stadium and proving to be the difference on the day. Morocco played admirably in the semi-final but ultimately ran out of steam against France. Regardless, it was a historic run, one that no one will ever forget. It looked all over. Argentina had a 2-goal lead over France and it looked as if the French had no way back into the game. Even as the clock struck 70 minutes, France was yet to even register a shot on goal. Everyone was ready to crown Argentina as champions, everyone except Kylian Mbappé. Firstly, with 10 minutes left, Mbappe's ball over the top to Randal Kolo Muani led to a penalty to France, which Mbappé slotted away with precision to within one. Then almost immediately from the kick-off, France won the ball back, worked it to Mbappé in the Argentine box, and from a tight angle, Mbappé volleyed the ball past Martinez in the Argentine net to drag France back into the final. From dead and buried to level in 60 seconds. Mbappé was then required to bail France out again in extra time. Trailing 3-2, France won another penalty with just 4 minutes left and from the spot, Mbappé became the first man in 56 years to score a World Cup final hat-trick and with 4 World Cup final goals already, he is the top World Cup final scorer history. France might not have won, but Mbappé's performance was the stuff of legend. There was always a sense of destiny and urgency from this side. Argentina never looked back after a shock defeat to Saudi Arabia, and the best Argentine team in the Lionel Messi era proved they deserved that title by reaching the World Cup final. Lionel Scaloni's men rose to the occasion, racing into a 2-0 lead from Lionel Messi and Angel Di Maria. Their name was all but written on the trophy. But France struck back with 2 quick goals, enough to mentally cripple almost any side in the world, but not this team. Argentina dusted themselves off for extra time and again took the lead after Messi bundled home a loose ball in the box in a moment that appeared to be the fairy tale ending for his World Cup career. But in yet another twist, France equalized again to force a penalty shootout. Lionel Messi, Paulo Dybala, and Leandro Paredes all converted from the spot, which combined with misses from Francis Kingsley Coman and Aurélien Tchouameni meant that l'Albiceleste were 1 kick away from destiny. Gonzalo Montiel, who gave the penalty away in extra, stepped up to the spot, and won the World Cup for Argentina. Argentina was a team that grew into the tournament getting better throughout, relying on their talisman Lionel Messi but also giving him the support and system allowing him and the team around him to flourish. It was a deserved World Cup final win, perhaps the greatest World Cup final of all time. Congratulations to Argentina, 2022 FIFA World Cup champions. In order to get the news, don't forget to turn on the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, and like the video. I'll see you later.